Yeah, so I started this script in April, and then people just kept coming forward with more information, and I kept on finding out more and more about what was allegedly going on behind the scenes. Yeah, we're talking about Cathy Hay today. Mostly the way that she monetizes her platform, preys on people's insecurities, and can't seem to shake off the racist behavior. Like, each incident on its own, maybe that's a trip and fall. Maybe that's a simple mistake. But all of it together, it's a bit much. And the internet has a short attention span, that is no secret, and Cathy is not a stranger to controversy. And I do want to acknowledge that she's clearly making an effort. More than that, I do want to say before getting started that as an online persona, especially a content creator that does like education like Cathy does, you do have to put forth a little bit of an effort to advocate for yourself and advocate for your work and monetize it. Lord knows it is hard to do, and I'm not gonna rip on anybody for trying to get fairly compensated for the effort that they're putting out for their community. That is not what I'm gonna say. But yeah, let's take a deep dive into a cornerstone of the historic costuming community that, in my opinion, is doing more harm than good. Okay, take a deep breath, center yourselves. I'm not gonna let Cathy Hay continue to be a warm, gooey persona that holds your hand and walks you through step by step all the things you need to do to achieve your sewing dreams. Cathy stans, I'm sorry. Now, for those of you who don't know, Foundations Revealed is a sewing community with exclusive blog posts researched and written specifically for Foundations Revealed itself. And the articles are mostly written by contracted employees or guest bloggers, as they're typically called. The website was originally made popular in the late 2000s, like going into 2010, because it was a really great resource for corset making, and steampunk trends were starting to melt into an obsession with Victorian era and historic costuming. At least that's how it went in my online circles. The information on the website is easily searchable, it's well organized, and it's pretty quality, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes Foundation Revealed even actually like funds research projects, which is really cool. Textile archaeology is a very underfunded science, and I think it's great that people are putting some love into it. Not hating on that at all. And as much as I am about to rip on Cathy, I think that she's done a fine job recognizing the skills and the value. I think she's done a great job of recognizing the skills and the value of the craftsmen around her. Whether or not she's treated them fairly is a whole nother story, and that's beside the point. We're getting to it. Everything on Foundations Revealed is pay to play. The online groups, the articles are all behind a paywall for a certain amount of time before they're available to the free level. I've even heard that there are live classes. I don't know if that's true, but on the website it didn't like mention that, but I've heard of the live classes before. You can access the free tier if you make an account, giving Cathy your email and subscribing to receive weekly motivational emails. She calls these her love notes, and these love notes also remind you when subscription windows will open, and it constantly reminds you of the value of the full membership once those windows open. Here's one of the ones that I received up on the screen. You can pause and read that if you want. This is an example of a pretty typical love note from Cathy. And like, this is not an evil idea. I actually kind of like the love notes. I think it's cute. I like that she tries to be a friend to her readers and hold their hand and guide them through their sewing journey. Her persona is fantastic. It's great. I like the person that she projects. No sane person wouldn't. But I do think it's also really important to look past personas and to the actual behavior of the businesswoman behind them. This is why Mom from Mom's Friendly Robots is in the thumbnail. Before I get into it, do not harass Cathy Hay. Do not put any nastiness anywhere about her or for her to read. That's not cool. Two wrongs don't make a right. And while she is a public figure and she deserves to be held accountable for her public actions, she's still a person and worthy of respect. Vent in the comments if you need to, but don't send her any spam, hate, or memes or anything of the sort. We're better than that as a community. Please don't prove me wrong. She has a degree in mathematics and education, and she owns the brand Harmon Hay Publications. Also, just a note, I super don't care about how long it's taken her to sew the Peacock Dress, who's unfollowed her, or about her love life, or about the number of times that she's funded the dress project, or any other sketchy things like that. Like, there's a lot of gossip and stuff out there about her, and there's honestly too many controversies for me to fit in this video, and I'd feel skeevy harping on some of them. So like, let the woman breathe. We're only gonna talk about the things that matter and happened recently. But no, there's a lot. This is a deep subject that you could really swim into if you wanted to. Oh, speaking of which, Nami Sparrow actually just covered the Peacock Dress and all of the racism that it's steeped in. That video was a happy surprise for me. So be sure to give her some love because we have the same brain apparently. Also, one more thing that I need to just bring up. She used to have these super white saviory videos of like Haitian children on her YouTube channel, and she left them there until Muse confronted her and she took them down. Children being exploited for clicks is not cool. I don't even like it when family vloggers do it with their own children. That feels weird to me. I also super don't like it whenever like televangelists and missionaries share all these videos of like children in their normal environment just being filmed by an outsider for like exploitative reasons. It feels sketchy and gross. I don't like it when she does it either. Also, I do need to touch on the way that she handled the Foundations Revealed costume competition. Now, forgive me if I'm overly brief, this has been talked about a lot, and I just am trying to fill everyone in so we're working off the same page. Foundations Revealed held a costume competition. It had a really diverse turnout, but all of the winners were white. Like, all of them. Can you say wildly unchecked unconscious racial bias? Shield Maiden popped the bubble on this one and got the whole internet talking about it. Foundation's Revealed team realized the mistake and they quickly tried to patch it up by giving all of the contestants of color wildcard awards. I'll link to that down below if I can so that you can scroll through and see it for yourself. It's pretty obvious who received what awards and why. And now she has hired someone to handle diversity in the future, and I think that this was a really good move for her. No shade there, she genuinely did the right thing. There was a second incident where the public got a public-facing look at the inside of the mind of Cathy Hay, who, by the way, is a public figure who I am only really discussing the public actions of. Trying not to get sued here. She sent out this email entitled "Tomorrow Isn't Guaranteed," and she has since apologized for this, but she basically discusses an ankle injury and waxes poetic about how tomorrow doesn't always come for people in the way that they expect it, and how aging is inevitable, and you will lose mobility and be unable to sew. So you've got to start today, you know? You have to give Cathy your money and learn how to sew right now, right? I have the full thing on screen for you to read, but I think that this line here is the most telling. I can remember my grandmother sadly telling me that she didn't sew anymore because she couldn't see to thread a needle. Arthritis takes the knitting needles out of too many hands too soon, and it's not just age that can compromise your physical ability to live a full life. A friend's young nephew dived into a swimming pool 4 years ago and came out paraplegic. Yeah, this is a thing that happens and it sucks. But the tone is pretty obviously not okay. I think that it's more than fair to say that this is ableist, not to mention untrue. I will actually try to link some resources below for you on how you can modify sewing to a disability. At best, this was an accident. At worst, this is an attempt to prey on people's fear to sell them something. Because really, every one of her love notes is at the end of the day an advertisement. And that's fine. It's really complex whenever your brand is your persona and your persona is you. That's dicey. I get it. The problem here is that she's preying on a reader's fear of losing mobility and vision and autonomy to sell them something at a very high price. And that fear is universal, making this particularly insidious. Also, it's still super ableist! Like, does my limp mean that I'm not living a full life? Am I less of a sewist because my arm goes numb every so often? Come on! Get out of here with that. I don't want this ableism in my community. The pattern here that I'm trying to highlight by getting into all of this and stirring it all up is that she gets called out for something absolutely wild and unacceptable, and then she fixes it ASAP, as she should. You know, it's a problem. And we all collectively forgive her and forget and move on, like decent human beings. But then she does something else. And this has been going on for like a decade. Like, there are other controversies associated with Cathy, like I said. And they happened more than 14 months ago at the time of writing this script, which was now 18 months ago. And I just can't make myself care enough to validate every rumor on the street, and this script is 16 pages long, so it's just not worth it to get into all of that. And at the end of the day, this isn't tea, this is accountability, and this is a genuine plea for change. But I think that these two very recent events paint a pretty decent picture of my opinions on her current public behavior and how allegedly predatory it is. I am alleging it is predatory. Allegations are legal. I also do happen to have access to some non-public behavior that I am going to dance around now. Before going any further, I do need to say things have been privately alleged to me that I can't really disclose the source of, at risk of bringing further harm to her victims. If you're not interested in hearing the retelling of private goings-on, while I sprinkle the word allegedly around like it is Parmesan cheese to avoid a lawsuit, feel free to skip to this timestamp. Previous contracted writers and guest bloggers have told their horror stories of low-pay, non-competition contracts that prevent you from being able to do any writing work outside of your guest blogging for Foundations Revealed for an unreasonable amount of time, which can be very bad for an online persona to have to go silent for a large period of time. That is a good way to tank someone's career. It's also a very demanding, high-pressure atmosphere that very much contradicts her warm, gooey, go-at-your-own-pace persona. I don't really appreciate that. If you're gonna preach something publicly, I feel like you should practice it. And bear in mind, my multiple sources accusations go back as far as 2014, so if you think you know who I'm talking about, you probably don't know who I'm talking about. Anyways, I'm very sorry if this section was anxiety-inducing for anybody. I also do want to say I wasn't personally affected by any of this behind the scenes going on, but a few people that I know and am close with have cried in front of me about it more than once, so I had to say something. Also, anyone who is victimized doesn't owe their story to anyone, so I don't want to see any comments being like, why don't you come forward? Maybe because Cathy has them by the balls. Just putting the kibosh on that now. But these stories of demanding behavior and predatory non-competition contracts that put people completely out of work and just general lack of regard for her employees cannot be ignored. Like I said, I can't prove any of this or that these contracts exist without outing or endangering any of these people that have come forward to me and shared their experiences, but I can't pretend like it didn't happen. And thankfully, this Instagram story's interaction between Nami and Cathy Hay confirms publicly that NDAs have been signed. So I feel like that validates it a bit. Sorry that I couldn't, like, prove that more directly, but I couldn't not bring it up. Also, if you're a lawyer and you happen to be seeing this, could you, like, let us know in the comments if it's even legal to, like, ask someone not to write in general after they do a guest blog for you? Because that just feels really sketchy and like it shouldn't be enforceable. Also, I don't think that your NDA should have in the NDA that you're not allowed to discuss the fact that you have an NDA, because that feels weird to me. I don't know. I am not a lawyer. I did have a lawyer look over the script, but I didn't have time to talk about this. Nami Sparrow already touched on this in a broad sense. I'm going to be talking about this in a pointed and specific way. This story, I promise, does have a happy ending, but it gets a little bit upsetting in the middle there. While I was doing research on this video, it got out that I was doing this, and a friend of mine got in touch with me, and they told me about a friend of theirs who is an incredibly talented Indian craftsman. His name is Mayankraj Singh, and he is the founder of a luxury fashion brand, Shikabarig, which we're going to come back to because it is lovely. We're going to drool over that in a minute. I'm going to include screenshots of our conversation. Feel free to pause and read his own words, but here is basically what happened. He was researching the peacock dress on his own, and he naturally found Cathy Hay. The peacock dress has cultural significance in India for obvious reasons. That was a big moment in fashion, yes, and also in unpleasant stuff, but from the fashion perspective, from the beauty perspective, it did have an effect. This is a nuanced topic that I barely feel qualified to talk about, and that is why I am not recreating the freaking peacock dress. Anyways, so Mentorship has access to generationally skilled, trained craftsmen. They've been doing this for 7 generations. They know like the more historically accurate methods for doing the embroidery. Very talented, very beautiful work, right? He offered his workers to her on a silver platter, basically. You know, let's collaborate, let's do this together. And he sent her some samples after she asked, and then she just never got back to him. The one thing that like puts my heart at ease in this situation is that she received samples in photo form, not in physical form, so he didn't like lose his physical work at the very least. That would kill me. Sadly, Cathy allegedly blocked and unblocked him, so their DMs on Instagram are emptied. I'm not sure how to go about finding the logs of a conversation. If anyone knows about that, please let us know. I am not technologically skilled. Here are the samples that he made. Let's drool over those for a minute. These are marvelous. Say what you will about her sketchy business practices, lady's got taste. Everyone with eyes can tell that Mentorship has skills. That's beautiful. Now let's talk about the impact of this for a minute though. I've been in line for a job before, a dream job, and was turned down because they wanted to pay someone less than they would have to pay me because of my qualifications. And while that sucks to hear, at least I knew that my skills weren't being called into question. Cathy just like ghosted this dude. He had no idea what was going on. And being ghosted by a Tinder match is one thing. I'm sure we've all been there and felt that vulnerability, but like, being ghosted by a professional contract is on another level. Like, that would hurt. And in his own words, it did hurt. And Cathy is not the only person to treat him and other Indian textile artists like this. The screenshots of Mentorship describing his experiences are here, and the bit that just gutted me is this line, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. To be refused service as Indians have trouble paying and shipping is a headache, or being charged twice as much by vendors online as they thought I would not know better. That's horrifying. Like, that is racism. Like, that's racism. And while Cathy is not responsible for the way that other businesses have treated me and Mentorship, she did contribute to one horrible experience in a long line of them. Not to mention, she has a huge platform, and working with me and Mentorship would set an example and maybe help other manufacturers and designers to be less ignorant in the future. You know, she could have set a precedent and done something beautiful that would have encouraged other designers to reach out to Indian embroiderers and work with them in an equitable way, but she didn't. There are Indian fashion designers and there are Indian textile artists that are doing beautiful and amazing work right now, in spite of decades of struggle. And the only part of this that Cathy cares about is having a pretty dress. Even the crickets don't like that. She has, on camera, approached this whole Peacock Dress project with an air of humility. You know, she acts as if she wishes to uplift the Indian practices and culture worth used. When the cameras are rolling, she has a totally different method of behavior. And she even really only started acknowledging that stuff after other people brought up to her that the dress had a sketchy history and maybe she should acknowledge and respect that. And then, like, behind the scenes, she turned down generational craftsmen in favor of factory workers who realistically are being paid less. Outsourcing labor, you know, that sounds familiar. Gosh, this lady just has so many rabbit holes attached to her. It's crazy. There's red flags everywhere. On a nicer note, Mentorship has overcome the absolute bull that people have thrown at him. And like I said before, he has a luxury brand that is beautiful. Like, goodness gracious, look at this loveliness. It's overwhelming. I have scrolled through his Instagram just to get some serotonin and excitement several times. Highly recommend that you do the same. Cher Thomas made a whole video responding to Cathy Hay, talking about her attitude in regards to the peacock dress. Most of the video was spent trying to help her manage her white guilt, and as well as advice on how to uplift the culture that the dress came from and uplift as many artists in that culture today as possible instead of just swooning over Worth, the designer. She suggested that she go find an Indian designer to help her make sense of this dress and its full context and importance, and even, you know, some of the not so great parts of it. Her exact words were to go and find the Indian Cathy Hay and promote their voice alongside hers. Someone who loves their own culture and isn't realistically going to have the same type of platform that Cathy does, because algorithms are very biased in who they support, unfortunately. Maybe someone like our buddy Mangraj, who reached out to her. Cher's video is heartbreaking, with or without context. She told Cathy step by step how she could elevate and celebrate Indian culture with her dress, how she could share the spotlight and throw a party that everyone was a part of. And Cathy was handed the perfect candidate on a silver platter and couldn't do it. Like, I have no words for how disappointed I am. Maybe I misunderstood her reasoning behind her project, or I misinterpreted all the time that she spends talking about wanting to learn and wanting to be thirsty for knowledge and find new sources of information. Like, you don't know someone from a video. You know a chunk of a curated version of them. And it is just disappointing to me that someone who's able to make such a relatable persona behaves like this. And now I'm off topic. Cher's live stream will be linked below because she is awesome. TBH, the Indian and Indian solidarity through this whole process has been kind of amazing. Also, Cher is really good at applique, so if that's something you're interested in learning, she is a person to look at. This whole thing has just been so disheartening because Cathy has been given kind and well-worded warnings for years and ignored them. She's been throwing rugs over controversies for so long, I don't know if she even remembers what the floorboards look like anymore. But let's talk about how Cathy monetizes her sewing country club. First off, monthly pricing is not freely available on her website. The website advertises the free version, as well as the full and essential memberships, and all of the lovely things that come with all of those. Now, the only way that you can find out what the monthly prices are is to make an account, so that you're already invested before reality hits you. And when you use the free version, there's all these little ribbons everywhere that let you know that you're using the free version and you're actually missing out on all the great stuff in the full version. And then once you follow that prompt, it lets you know that admissions are closed and you are not allowed in. But if you sign up for Cathy's love letter, then you'll be told when you're allowed to give her money and join her little special club. This is called false scarcity. It's also an in-group, out-group thing, but mostly it's false scarcity. This is the same tactic that was used in diamond mines. Basically, false scarcity is whenever you have an artificial scarcity of an item despite the technology for production or the sufficient capacity for sharing. That is the Webster Dictionary definition. This is like, you know, preventing people from accessing the unlimited resource of reading your blog post unless they pay you money? Kind of weird. Also, all of these hoops that you have to jump through kind of play into the sunk cost fallacy. This one's really easy to fall for. Humans are super hardwired for it. A sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. All the time you wasted signing up and waiting for Cathy to give you a love letter inviting you to join the Sewing Country Club. You don't get that time back. And the thing is, you don't accidentally use these tactics. You don't just slip and fall and wind up with like a predatory business model. Whoops, I meant to start an Etsy store, but now I run an MLM. Oh no, that's not a thing that happens. Anyway, the first love letter that had enrollment information that I received came on June 7th, 2021. And I gotta say, I think the automatic name fill-in things are creepy because this is clearly an automated message and the robot does not know my name or care who I am. Stop it. She then sent another invitation to join on June 8th, then on June 9th, then again on June 10th, then again on June 10th, and then one last warning on June 11th. Feel free to pause and read any of these. But back to that first letter. Followed one of the 2 links to enrollment that she had there for me, and I gotta say, this countdown is kind of priceless. Can you say false scarcity? So, you go to this landing page and you scroll through these multiple layers of sale pitch, And everything about this is intentional. All of the heartfelt notes, all of the personalized messages. There's nothing wrong with advocating for yourself and your business, but like, this is a bit skeevy. Here's one of the little pleas she writes. Gonna read it verbatim for you. Stop trying to piece these skills together from the free stuff on the internet. Get the help with your weird and wonderful projects that you're not finding at your local craft store. Find a community of weirdos just like you. Become your real self and dress the part. Girl. Yes, this is an asset. And due to the organization and how accessible this information is, once you pay for it. But there are a ton of people, myself included, who work their asses off to make information as accessible for people as possible. Like, yes, monetize, ask for payment, your skills are valuable. But that doesn't give you a free pass to take a dump on the rest of the internet. There are some talented people out here doing some free labor to build a sewing community that's not hidden behind a paywall, but accessible to everyone from all walks of life. Shield Maiden, Ariana Black, Evelyn Wood, there's so many more. I'm gonna link some playlists down below to some of the free resources. Just go ahead and check them out so that you can properly seethe with me here. I'm unreasonably ticked off at this statement, I'm not gonna lie. I fully recognize that she funds research into super niche sewing topics, and I think that it would be valid to put maybe those articles behind a paywall until they pay for themselves, or have an option to donate on the website, like on Wikipedia, for example. But there really are so many not sketchy ways to do this. Let's move on. The frequently asked questions section. Is coaching included? No, you have to pay extra for that. Coaching is a really particular skill. It takes one-on-one attention from someone, so I understand. But like, speaking for myself, I do coach people who come into my comment sections. I will talk with you as long as you need to explain a sewing technique, if you need that. There are also Facebook groups and Reddit communities where people do that as well. And like Ariana Black, she live streams for 2 hours every Saturday about just the intricate details of corset making. So that is also available for free elsewhere, just saying. Anyways, she says that they're not sure when enrollment is going to be opening back up again due to COVID-19. But like, come on. We know that this is all to build false scarcity. So you panic and spend the money. I don't know if anyone has ever asked that question. Maybe this is a thought that people have, but there are tons of resources out there for beginners. Beginners are the easiest group of people to make content for. They're also the easiest group of people to swindle out of money because they don't yet know where to find the good information online. So there's two sides to that coin. Okay, this one right here. This is so manipulative. Feel free to pause and read it. Obviously, it's worth the money. You need to do something for yourself. You deserve this. Sure, babe. Who doesn't want to hear this, you know? It's been a rough year, and this is like the Treat Yourself episode of Parks and Rec. It's true. You do deserve nice things. You do deserve to treat yourself. Do it by prioritizing what you enjoy and maybe saving up some money and buying yourself some nice fabric or a nice pattern to make a thing instead of roping yourself into a long-term financial commitment. Treat yourself. Take out 5 credit cards. Same flavor, same energy. This question is vague, and like, odds are if someone had a real niche, it would not be accommodated on Foundations Revealed. She even basically admits that. But she frames it in a way that makes you want to, you know, pay her money anyways and wait a little bit, and then they'll accommodate your specific niche, right? But I sincerely doubt that there's like lastless shoemaking or printmaking, hat weaving, bead weaving. There's no way there's bead weaving. That's beside the point. Moving on. Now this last question and answer leads you on a bit of a goose chase because it asks a question, it gives you an answer, but the actual answer is at the very bottom of the page, like buried. Like, I feel like the actual policy of like how to get out of payment is pretty important to know, and that is For over a decade, Foundations Revealed has worked for thousands of makers. We know it'll work for you too. That's why we invite you to test drive Foundations Revealed 100% risk-free. If you give it a genuine go, weird big wording, and you don't feel like we delivered on your promise, claim a refund at any time in your first month. No questions asked. Did you catch that? You can only cancel in the first month. Which means that if life gets busy and then you realize that this isn't for you like a month and a day afterwards, you're still tied into making the payments for the entire year. Or like you could read all of the articles that actually apply to you in 5 months, let's say. I'm gonna be generous and say 7 months, right? And then you pay for access to a Discord? Girl, no, that is not a risk-free guarantee. That is a very risky guarantee. So scrolling on, I see this pros and cons list. And this one is priceless. This plays on this straw man fallacy as well as love bombing. It's also very othery, you know, it creates an in-group and an out-group. A straw man, just in case you don't know, is whenever you come up with a fake argument against what you're doing and then you argue against the obviously bad argument. Group and out group that she's creating here. The person that she's painting with the words in the cons list versus the pros list. The cons list is very much like, oh, if you're lazy and you're not driven and you're not gonna, you know, work hard to get what you want, then you shouldn't pay for this if you're a lazy slob. But if you do pay for this, you should be the kind of person who's lovely and hardworking and wonderful, you know? And that's the love bombing. Because clearly, if you've made it this far into the process, you do want, on some level, to pay for Foundations Revealed. So Cathy is essentially paying you a huge list of compliments, right? I mean, like I've said, there is something to say for self-advocacy. And yes, this is an advertisement. I know it's an advertisement and you do have to hustle a little for an advertisement. But this feels skeevy. It's just skeevy. I wouldn't write an ad like this. No one I know would write an ad like this. And I have some very successful friends. Anyway, once you've been primed, love bombed, and conditioned, it finally shows you how much the next tier of membership costs. But there is one last heartfelt sermon from Cathy about why you should pay her $27 for access to information. And that's monthly. Per year you would be paying $324. And this isn't even full access. There's levels beyond this, like we said. There's no coaching. I don't think this is all the articles even. And honestly, I don't care how quality these articles are. With few exceptions, this information is out there already. Like, you might have to dig a little, and you might need to join a Facebook group or two, or find some primary sources on Google Scholar. Go to museum websites or original text. You might have to, God forbid, buy a couple books or rent them from your local library. You can find this information. I mean, holy heck, I could order all of my, like, sewing information wish list, including the super high-tech, like, pattern CAD software that I want, for $380.07. So like a little bit more than what you'd pay for Foundations Revealed for 1 year. And yes, I did check this to prove a point. This is a great tool of convenience, like I've said, but I just don't think that it's worth that much money. And that's a very subjective thing. And like, there's gonna be people in the comments saying, I think it is worth that much, and that's great. But the thing is, like, there are going to be so many more people that are held out of this sewing community, either because it's not worth that much money to them because they have bills to pay and needs to meet, but also because they just straight up can't afford that much money. And like I said, that's the like little tip of the iceberg access that she's giving. Full access is 4 times that much. That's $108 for full membership per month. $1,296 for the year. I sew professionally and I spent less than that on materials. My startup costs for my online business were like less than half of that. That's my rent for the month. That's my husband and I and my dog eating for 3 months, 4 if we're careful. I'm sure for some people that's not like a crippling, unfathomable amount of money, but like, I just don't see how that's worth it to anyone. I just don't understand why she feels the need to make her money this way. Wikipedia is doing just fine with donations from the internet and a little bit of AdSense money. I'm not just some ignorant person pointing at it and saying, that's too much money, I don't think it's worth that. Like, I took business math. I know how this works. Both my parents are accountants. There are 1,000,001 ways to turn a profit without dicking anybody over. A specific community will go out of their way to make sure that you are taken care of if you are providing content that is valuable to the community. And Cathy is. As much as I'm ticked off at her, she is. Like, being real here for a minute, I charge 1/4 of what I could easily charge for my patterns. And I know that. And a good chunk of the time, people tip me more than I charge for, sometimes more than 4 times what I charge for them. Because I've brought value to them and I've brought value to a community that they care about as a sewist. I also have sewist friends who had people asking like where their coffee was after a month or 2 of them creating content because they liked them and wanted to see them to continue to do the content creation thing. Like, people in this online circle know how much blood, sweat, tears, and fabric go into making this content. You don't have to twist their arms to get them to contribute to you. You really don't. Cathy has some mentors that she hypes up, and I want to briefly touch on them. Jeff Walker here, it says that he is 69 years old. Nice. His whole thing is creating false scarcity to sell things, which makes sense. And I'm not the only one to find this sketchy. Like, it is not an illegal practice by any means, but it isn't a kind one. And it really shows that the person using that technique views all of their potential customers as marks or wallets with faces, and arguably could be found for free elsewhere. These pop-up paywall courses are a scourge on the internet, and if you type up any of these people's names, the first like Google suggestion that I got was, are they a scam? Are they scamming? Are they a scam artist? So they clearly have a reputation for themselves. And like everyone from the Ace Family and Logan Paul to oil moms and televangelists are running one of these courses right now because it just, people buy them and it makes money, and then you've committed to spending all this money for X amount of time. And it's just frustrating. It's a very frustrating thing on the internet. I'm far from the only person to be annoyed by it. And to be fair, Foundations Revealed is the only one that I have seen that actually has like tangible assets that are kind of worth wanting behind the paywall. In conclusion, the online sewing community is mostly filled with wonderful people who are trying to share their passion with you, trying to share a skill that they love with you. But there are a small chunk of people that just want to make as much money off of you as they possibly can. None quite as successful as Cathy. There are sewing intensives and classes that are well worth $108. They just don't try to manipulate you into spending your money. Like, I Can Make Shoes and Madeline the Bra Company are doing just fine. Also, these courses provide materials most of the time. At least the 2 I just mentioned do. That's beside the point. I just couldn't not talk about this. There are too many people not talking about this. And it's fine to fall for the gooey persona. It is fine if you gave her money, and it's fine if you don't want to dislike her. No one is irredeemable and no one is evil, and I'm not trying to cancel someone or ruin their business or anything like that. And I will say right now, I don't want to see anyone hating on her in the comments. Like, if you need to vent, that's fine. If you need to crack a joke or 2, go ahead and do it in the comment section, but don't harass her. Please don't. I'm sure that she knows that she stepped in it. I know that she knows the water around her is boiling. She's gotta. She's smart. I will be monitoring my comment section as well, and if anyone is being a heathen, you will get the boot. Can stand her and also dislike her behavior. We can really, really want her to do better while also recognizing that she has not been doing very well so far. We can appreciate the resource of Foundations Revealed, while at the same time recognizing that not everyone was given a seat at the table. And also the table was kind of manipulative and a little bit underwhelming once you sat down and you had to pay like exorbitant amounts of money to even sit there and get in the room and take a look at it. That analogy fell apart. Also, myself and no one else in costume is gonna start just like coming for people's throats. We don't air dirty laundry. We're not about, you know, taking people's private moments and smearing them all over for everyone to see. We're better than that as a community. Please no one prove me wrong. If this ages like milk, I'm gonna be mad. I really do just draw a line at predatory financial behavior. That's not cool. That's not a good way to build a healthy community. It puts people at genuine risk, you know? And I do think that there needs to be some accountability if we're gonna have a healthy community. Anyway, if you liked this video, be sure to give it a like so that more awesome people like you can see it. And subscribe for more of me and, I guess, commentary videos and costuming stuff. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of swirling. Stay tuned. But hey, check out the playlist down there. There's a bunch of awesome creators and videos to get you, you know, started on a nice research spiral if that's what you're looking for. Anyways, bye friends! My camera died 3 times in the making of this video. I am so happy that it is finally filmed. Now I just gotta edit it. Ah! Anyway, I've been Maya Grace. I just tore apart everyone's hero, and I will see you next time, assuming I have not been hand-felled to death. Ew, that's a visceral image. Why did I write that? That's nasty. Anyways. Is this still recording? Yes, it's still recording. Gotta check every so often. Maybe stop being racist. Yeah, that'd be nice. Maybe just retain the advice that she's been given. Hopefully she retains it this time. Like, am I pale enough for you to listen to? Jesus. Honestly, this gives me flashbacks to when this older lady in my costuming group was trying to get me to join a makeup MLM under her, and like, she just really framed it in like this, do this for you. I want to do you a favor and give you all of this crippling debt. Like if I were to say, people who don't like wearing dresses just don't like wearing them because their legs are so hairy. Can you say Ugh.